So hey guys, I was looking through my selection of slaved playlists and I was watching some Gmod Idiot Box. For those who don't know what that is, it's basically a collection of short skits made within Gmod by a guy named Dasposhit. This series was quite popular back in the day and is actually one of the things that got me to buy Gmod in the first place. But that's besides the point. The last episode was made way back in April of 2015 and we're about 2 months shy of 10 years since the last episode was made. Anyway, I was thinking about it and I realized I don't think I've been recommended any machinimas, not only Gmod but other games in general, in a very long time. And I remember when I was younger, I was also pretty big into Minecraft machinimas, from the likes of It's Jerry and Harry and Exploding TNT. But I've had the pleasure of finding and enjoying other series like Red vs. Blue and Moments with Heavy by Kitty0706. And wow, a lot of these productions just blow me away with their creativity and resourcefulness. And many of them have aged quite well, if you ask me. And I think they may have influenced me a lot more than I realized, because I've had several people on my Fumo videos saying that they would be right at home in 2015, which was around the height of this content, and I was there to enjoy it. But that brings up the obvious question. Where did this style of content go? Like, you search up any of the games these machinimas came from in the search bar on YouTube, and there's nothing. You might also be wondering why this matters, because I might be sounding a bit nostalgic, and maybe I am a little bit, but a lot of these videos I did not grow up with. I did not grow up with Red vs. Blue. I did not grow up with Moments with Heavy. I knew it existed, but I didn't really watch it. And coming back to them now, it's like they are genuinely really good. And even if they don't always appeal to modern sensibilities. And I just want to know what happened and why we weren't making them anymore. Because they're a perfectly valid medium of storytelling and entertainment. We're going to focus on Gmod, because that was kind of what got me to make this video in the first place. I was going to use Minecraft, but I didn't feel like sifting through endless amounts of garbage. Like, just look up Minecraft through the YouTube search bar, and like, it's all just a bunch of nonsense.
What the hell am I looking at?
Anyway, if you search up Gmod, you don't get a whole lot of what we're looking for. But you do get a lot of porn for children, though. So thank you, YouTube. Very cool. Now if you'll excuse me.
Take us into orbit, Mr. Malmsteen. We've seen enough.
Looking up Gmod Machinima helps a little, but it's still just a lot of the classics. There are actually quite a few new ones if you use the filter tool and search by this year. But these videos' view counts are very low for some reason. I really like this Office Days one by this guy called Grutsk. It's pretty well done, but this video only has about 1.5k views. Granted, this one channel seems to be very new, with just 143 subscribers and a small handful of videos, so let's look at someone a little more established. I encountered this other channel. It's called Crowbar Productions. It's a very good name for a Gmod channel, by the way. They have about 4.5k subscribers, and from the looks of it, they look like they might qualify as a Gmod OG, or at least a second generation. This channel produces a series called Space Quest, which is about 2 years old.
When he needs to. And you best understand this, subordinate. He is a brilliant man with an unrivaled focus and commitment, and we're blessed to be under his command. Oh, man.
And it's pretty well made, with full voice acting and even scoring. This is golden material, so why is it not bigger? Most of the videos in this series have about 1.5 to 2k views, which is about half the subscriber base of this guy. And, you know, it's pretty typical of my stuff, and I just use dolls and cardboard. So it's pretty tragic. This is not really how the game should go, you would think. So I've come up with a couple of theories on why this content is not really popular anymore or common anymore. And do note that these are completely speculative. It's really hard to get any kind of tangible data that could prove this. But basically, the three main causes I came up with are: one, the algorithm. That's probably the most obvious one. The second is YouTube Kids. I think YouTube Kids had a part to play with it, and I'll get to that in a minute. And the third theory that I have is what I call the uncanny valley of media, you can say. But first of all, let's start with the first part, the algorithm. I can't seem to find a lot of information for the history of algorithm changes, but we're going to assume this list by Bing Copilot is at least somewhat accurate. So, according to Google Trends, the heyday of Gmod animations was around 2014 to 2015, which falls into the second iteration of the YouTube algorithm, where watch time was the primary focus. However, it looks like the algorithm would soon change again in 2015 for the purpose of social responsibility. I don't really know what that means exactly, but I think this may have been the update that killed Gmod machinimas, because many of them can be quite...
Elliot?
Hey, Fagla, he called your name.
raunchy, we'll call it. Plus, because of the nature of the medium, their quality is inherently limited to a sort of medium-esque quality, and YouTube may have just struck it down because it wasn't quite to their standard because of that. Now moving on to number 2 is YouTube Kids. I think that YouTube Kids may have been responsible for the failure of the video game machinimas. So let's look at the facts. So the app for YouTube Kids came out in 2015, a year that I've established to be significant. Now let's look at the audience for machinimas. It's fairly young children, about 8 to 13 I'd say. Like when you check all of these classic Gmod machinimas, for example, you find a lot of people saying, oh yeah, I remember watching these all the time when I was a kid. Now back to YouTube Kids, you'll find all over the place, especially if you look up Minecraft, videos that look a lot like the machinimas that we watched when we were younger. But now these are specifically designed for kids instead of being designed by some teenager because he had a funny idea in basic editing software. I think what may have happened was we had the original population that existed before YouTube Kids, and this was during the peak of the Gmod animations. YouTube Kids came out. The OG creators, they stopped uploading or lost relevance because of algorithm changes, as stated previously, or in special cases, taken from the earth. Rest in peace, Kitty. And the original audience outgrew this kind of content. And as the next generation was growing up to replace their older brothers, realistically speaking, and as YouTube Kids began to grow in prominence, some, likely highly malevolent people, realized, hey, kids really like these video game parody things, and started making their own, and that's why there's so many of these kinds of videos on YouTube Kids today. And I think in turn this had the effect of creating a perception around machinima-styled videos that they were only for children, and so nobody wanted to make them anymore. It's kind of like how here in the US, cartoons ended up being seen as something only for children, when that wasn't originally true. Although this does seem to be changing nowadays, but I digress. The third theory I have is a little more abstract, and is probably more of an observation than anything. But as I've been exploring a lot of these old machinimas, I've realized they're actually kind of an acquired taste, if you will. And I think these kinds of videos may exist in a sort of uncanny valley, especially for ones made in Gmod. Like, you don't really think about it, but like everything in the game looks, or at least should look, natural for the context of that game. Like, I feel this a lot with Halo machinimas. It feels really weird to see Spartans just stand around with like their guns down, and talk in a very stiff manner of just like bobbing their heads. It just kind of feels weird. It doesn't feel natural. And I think that may have pushed a lot of people away. But when you're a kid, you don't really notice it that much. But as you get older, it gets a lot more apparent. And I think this has the effect of pushing a lot of creators towards different tools like SFM. Machinimas are pretty dead, but I've noticed SFM fan animations, especially for TF2, they're still going pretty strong. So maybe I answered my question. Nobody's making machinimas because there are just better tools out there. I'm still not completely satisfied with this answer, because if that is the case, why aren't there more of them? Even though SFMs are still going pretty strong, they're still kind of a rarity. And frankly, I haven't been too impressed with a lot of the SFMs that I've seen. A lot of them are very technically impressive, yes. I will not deny them their victory in that regard, but when it comes to creativity, a lot of their premises are kind of basic, with probably the exception of MSS Blue. Now that's absolute cinema. I want to see more. I want to see more stuff with more unique premises, especially premises that exist outside of the original context of the game that the idea is based on. Like, let's take a classic video, like Heavy Orders in Xbox 360 by Kitty0706. It's a very simple premise, but it's brilliant because it asks a simple but intriguing question. What do the TF2 characters do outside of the game? And this is just one of the answers to that question. We need to see more people thinking proactively outside the box like this. Kitty was a genius when it came to this kind of thing. And like he said so in his Gmod Bible video, and I'm sort of paraphrasing. It's all about the what if. What if? That's probably the most powerful question that one can ask. One can ask about anything. And I feel like today, a lot of people, they don't ask that question of what if. And I'd like to see more of it. And I think that's about all I have to say. I guess another thing we could talk about is the barrier to entry. I've noticed that with all the new tools and things that have been released over the years, I realized it can be very overwhelming for first-timers that have never had any kind of experience doing this thing before. I've experienced this kind of thing before with Halo. So a long time ago, I did a series on my main channel. This was long before I started doing anything like Fumo related. It was called Halo Idiot Box, and it was inspired by the Gmod Idiot Box, of course. And I wanted to do some of the skits in my videos in Halo 5, but the thing is that I had no idea how to use the Forge in Halo 5. It was just so complicated, and I had no idea where anything was or how to do anything in it. And I was actually unaware that there were machinima options available within Halo 5. So I never ended up using Halo 5 in any of my Halo Idiot Boxes. And just this last Christmas when I was visiting my mom, I tried to learn Halo Infinite's Forge, and it took me like a week to become somewhat competent with it, and I still have no idea how to use the scripting feature. It's just so needlessly complicated. And people wonder why nobody does machinimas with Halo anymore. It used to be with Halo 3 and Reach, anybody could use Forge with like an hour of practice. And now it feels like you need a college course on how to use Forge. It's crazy. So I guess we could get more machinimas nowadays, perhaps if the barrier of entry when it comes to the tools available was just a little bit lower. You know? But what do you guys think? Do you agree, or do you have any ideas for what could be wrong? Or is there even a problem? Because it could totally just be that I just don't know where to look. And I guess that goes to a different problem of how do you find certain types of content on YouTube? Because the algorithm, for as good as it is, it's not perfect, and oftentimes the things that you want to see actually get buried. So I guess if you know where to find it, by all means let me know. And I guess I'll see you guys in the next one.